Oh man, so I've been performing. Okay, let me go back even further than that. I'm a journalist by trade, and I work for a sports car magazine. So I travel quite a bit and do a lot of racing and motorsports related stuff all over the country. So I've always been kind of a comedy nerd, and I started performing at open mics 25 years ago. When I would travel and stuff, and that sort of led me to this place called the Sat Comedy Lab in Orlando, which is this fantastic improv theater, and they have this amazing training program. And I took classes over there, and I was actually sort of one semester behind a guy named Wayne Brady. So it was really cool, like sort of coming up and watching these guys that were sort of a little bit ahead of me, but were clearly talented and really gifted, and getting to perform with some of them before they kind of left to seek fame and fortune. And some of them, that like he was part of a group that literally like all those guys that sort of went to Hollywood with Wayne are somebody now. So my background, trained wise, it's mostly improv, and had an improv group in Daytona for a while, and then we all kind of grew up and got real lives, and that sort of slowed down. And then I performed with Random Acts and Sandy a little bit and kind of helped train some of those guys and get them going. And lately, about 5 years ago, Scott Harrell started the stand-up thing here, and we just kind of decided, man, this is like a really cool room, and the audience, I mean, you've seen the audience here at Tindernock. It's incredibly generous and just really supportive of anybody. So we started doing stand-up here, and I kind of got that thrill, from stand-up that I'd kind of, I don't know, grown out of from improv, but sort of, I'd done my time doing improv. It was fun. I still love it, but like this was a new thrill all of a sudden. So, I guess my current sort of wave of stand-up has been about 5 years, but that's, following 20 years of improv basically. So that's kind of my background. It's very room dependent. I mean, here in this area of Florida right now, things are really good for stand-ups. There's a lot of really generous crowds. There's a lot of rooms. There's a lot of people that are kind of willing to let you experiment a little bit. So when I first kind of came back to it, it was almost like performing for a theater crowd. Like they would let you get away with not being funny every 15 seconds and let you actually craft story stuff. So it was really satisfying. And that's really the kind of comedy I like, that kind of comes from a more narrative place. But, that's coupled with, okay, fine, so I'm in LA one time and go do an open mic there. It's like, oh man, it's brutal because nobody's paying attention. Everybody thinks they're a comic. There's 30 people. You get 2 minutes. You have no time to build any kind of rapport with the audience. So, stand-up is it's fun because the emotions, both it's either dizzying highs or crushing lows. Like there's no middles with stand-up, and both of those are kind of satisfying in their own way. I mean, there's few times when you're as honest with yourself as after when you just absolutely die on stage. I grew up with guys like Emo Phillips and guys like Bobcat Goldthwait, who I discovered, who was actually on a show that Mike Nesmith was doing. Like Mike Nesmith from the Monkees had this awesome one-season sketch show on TV in like 1984, 85, and that was just amazing because it was like this really sort of subversive, kind of not traditionally funny stuff, and that really appealed to me. Everybody growing up my age listened to Carlin and Cosby and all those guys, but the guys that really got me into comedy were guys like Mike Nesmith and Bob Goldthwait and Emo Phillips, and then later in life the thing that really sort of is probably a couple main influences on kind of what I feel like I really like and respond to today, and that's Bob Odenkirk and David Cross, with Mr. Show, which was just this revelation that like sketch can be not just funny but really, really sort of satiric, which is hard to do. And then a guy named Phil Hendry, who is a radio host that does. He doesn't really do it anymore, but he's got this huge backlog of shows that he used to do, which would be sort of improvised talk radio characters that just really kind of satirized the ridiculousness of talk radio. And he would do it live on the air and take calls. And it was just this amazing tribute to the fact that like if you're committed to a character and if that character exists and is real for you, it might not be funny, but it's going to be compelling. And sometimes compelling is even better than funny. Well, Mr. Show obviously was a huge influence on me, and that was like that was a show that I would literally, if I was on the road somewhere and it was Friday night or Sunday night, depending on which night would come on HBO, I would like make sure I was in a hotel that had HBO on time, and I'd be like on the phone with my wife. We'd be like watching it on the phone with each other, making sure to watch it. It sounds trite, but Monty Python was a huge influence on me when I was growing up, and that was probably like the early '70s when I was 6, 7, 8 years old, and like we had one TV in the house. So I would have to, Monty Python was on like Sunday morning at like 9 a.m. on our PBS station or whatever. So I'd have to like sneak in my parents' room, and they'd still be asleep, and I'd be like watching Monty Python this far from the TV so I could hear it. So I really, really like that stuff growing up. Favorite comedy movies, man, that's tough because it's one of the few genres that I think there's really consistently good stuff constantly, and if I had to pick a couple that maybe stick with me as like if I see it on cable I have to finish watching it. Stripes is an amazing movie. Like that's one of those movies. It's just you watch it and you realize like, okay, this is not just a funny movie. Like it wasn't just a vehicle for those guys, but it's a really, really well written movie too. And it's got good structure as a movie, not just as like an excuse for jokes. Caddyshack is a great classic movie. Like that. Caddyshack is fun because even when it came out, it was almost kind of a throwback to like the screwball 50s comedies where you just had all these bigger than life characters just eating all the scenery they could, and that's one of those movies that's almost even funnier when you find out some of the stuff that was going on behind the scenes of that movie, and just to watch those guys who were all in the prime of their career just basically trying to blow each other off the screen is still pretty fun. I really like David Cross's comedy right now, and God, I don't even want to attempt to say that we have similar styles at some point, but I see him talking about subjects and talking about them in ways that I find myself really connecting with. So actually, it would probably make a lousy tour because we both kind of have the same viewpoints and the same approach to stuff. But he's a guy that I really think right now is doing stuff with stand-up that is it isn't just set up punchline knocking down jokes. Like he's having conversations with the audience, which I think is amazing stuff. So yeah, he's amazing. There's a lot. The cool thing now is like you have access to so many more comedians than we did. Back when I was growing up, because it was just basically you had to release a record, which was basically you had to put it, spend all that money to print it and put it out. And now, like we'd never know about guys like Matt McCarthy or Anthony Jeselnik. We would never know about those guys back in the 80s or the late 70s because there just wasn't the access, to the internet and to being able to share media. So yeah, I mean, if I had to go on the road with somebody, I could hopefully probably see having some fun with David Cross and learning a few things and having some fascinating conversations. Or actually, another one of my favorite performers it's tough to put him in a comedy genre, but I love watching Henry Rollins perform. He's just a guy that I think, like, he's just pure passion and energy on stage, and I really dig that. I really like. There's something about somebody who is 100% committed to what they are doing in that moment that's really appealing to me. So but of course, nobody ever really opens for him. He just comes out, and 4 hours later, you're like exhausted from listening to all that information. So yeah, it's not really, and I don't think I could keep up with him on his schedule. But yeah, he's somebody who I'd be interested to work with. Obviously, guys like George Carlin. Like if there was no George Carlin, there would be no David Cross. There would be no Henry Rollins. Maybe like Carlin made it possible for comedians to be, well, you can say Lenny Bruce made it possible for comedians to be sort of socially aware and socially conscious, but Carlin brought that to the mainstream. So I would be interested to hear sort of his take on our modern approach to comedy here. God, who else? I still have huge respect for, like, Jerry Seinfeld. To me is sort of the last of the great, what I would call a brick wall comedian. Like he defined the you ever notice this, you ever notice that genre, and he does it so well that when you see him do it, it doesn't even seem like it's stupid anymore. Like that, that whole genre of comedy got really played out. But when you see the guy that basically invented it and perfected it, you see a lot. You get a lot of respect for that. Guys, Gilbert Gottfried seems to be a guy that has really kind of transcended a lot of who I want to be roasted by. He is probably one of the most fearless roasters I've ever seen. I mean, he won't hold back in front of absolutely anybody, and I would definitely want to have somebody who had absolutely no limits on what he would want to say. And gosh, there's a couple of comedic actors I think that I would really like to see. Sort of like I like when guys like Paul Rudd do stuff like that, because he's not a traditional stand-up, but I love to see. I love watching roasts and specials and stuff when you have guys that are traditionally more like a comic actor get up and it's just him and a mic and a stage, and they've got to do something, because generally they won't take a jokey approach to it. They'll take a more character-based approach to it, and I think that's a really neat approach. And so finally, to round it off, I don't know, maybe gosh, somebody like Dave Barry, almost, like or somebody like David Sedaris, like a brilliantly talented writer that just has this absolute like ninja control of the English language, and just it doesn't come off as sort of an aggressor, but just uses language as just an absolute cudgel to get his way. And I think words like wit are kind of overused, but then like you see guys like David Sedaris, who is just pure wit and snark, and it's like Seinfeld doing the "You ever notice this" stuff. Like oh man, when you see the guy that invented it, that's something special. So. Being a journalist by trade, I enjoy the written word quite a bit, and I like being able to use comedy and humor in writing. I really enjoy my favorite stand-up genres or improv genres were always long form stuff. It was always stuff where the real mission was to tell a story, not to tell a joke. Because I think ultimately, like when when you're talking about presenting something for an audience, that's the stuff that's going to stick with them, is the story, and not. A lot of people can make funny jokes, but when you're driving home, like, man, there was something on that stage that connected with me. So I really enjoy writing stuff, and writing stuff that's long form enough where it can have this sort of overall narrative. And then there's good zingers and one-liners and jokes in there too, but there's an overall narrative. And even in my journalistic pieces, I love being able to bring that into what I do for a living. I really enjoy. Zach Bannon and I have made some kind of quickie short films where we'll just find an absurd concept and sort of half improvise and half work out little sketches based on that. And I really enjoy doing that kind of stuff. I'd love to be able to honestly have the time to do more stuff like that, and that's been a blast. So yeah, again, one of the great advantages we have today is like there are so many avenues for creative people to distribute their creativity. With the internet being a thing, and being able to instantly take a concept and send it out there to a huge audience, and they can either accept it or reject it, but you can get it in front of you can get material in front of a lot of eyes very quickly. I have kind of a unique advantage in that or maybe it's not an advantage. Maybe it makes me a little bit complacent, but I'm really just kind of doing this for fun. I've got a career that I've been in for 26 years now. I've been married for 18 years. I'm for all intents and purposes, I'm a grown up. So I see these guys out there that are trying to make a career out of it, and or trying to at least get paid once in a while. If I get paid doing this once in a while, man, it's fun, but it's not what I'm in it for. But the nice thing that does for me is it removes sort of any fear I might have over failing, because there's literally no failure mode for me in comedy. If I don't do well at a show, I'm gonna go home. My wife's gonna be there. She's gonna love me no matter what. She's gonna laugh about the stories I tell, because they'll probably be funnier when I get home. By the time I get home, so it really frees me up to experiment a little bit, and I love bringing. I like challenging the audience, and sort of making them wonder what they're watching a little bit, and I'd like to continue along those lines. Like I'd like for whenever anybody sees one of the shows that I'll put a lot of effort into, I want them to leave thinking, what was that supposed to be funny? I'm not sure what I think about that, but I can't get it out of my head. That's the reaction I'm looking for. I think it's fun to challenge people, and it's fun to surprise them. I want to do something that they're going to not just remember, but something I know that I want to challenge anybody's belief system or make them change their mind about anything, but I want to give them not just a memorable experience, but an experience that gives them something to think about, and something that they can kind of use as a tool, to have a conversation with somebody later, or to, even if it's just a pleasant memory of the show or a confused memory of the show. So, I'm almost, my comedy, I'm almost more focused on 3 days later than that night. I mean, it's great getting laughs at a show, but like 3 days later, I want people thinking about, man, what is that really what he meant by that, or is that what I saw, or is this? So I think that's really the reaction I'm looking for. Is like I want to make people think about stuff a little bit. I'm on Facebook at JG Pasterjak. My Facebook is this mishmash of people from motorsports and comedy, and I also shoot pistols in competition. So it's like this really huge group of diverse people. So if you I don't turn down a lot of friend requests, and I try and keep things interesting on Facebook, and that's pretty much my primary social media presence. And everything that I put on Facebook gets linked to Twitter, but I can't bring myself to maintain a Twitter page for the life of me. So yeah, find me on Facebook, and I'll try and keep things entertaining for you, and we'll try and have some fun discussions. My name is JG Pasterjak. I am a amateur, semi-amateur professional comedian in the Daytona Beach area. You can check out Sarah's webpage at aqdpi.com. There are artists, creative people, comics, musicians from every form of the creative arts there at that webpage, and I cannot wait to check it out myself. I just met this guy tonight. He is absolutely the future of modern media. And I am excited to know guys like this. Being a professional journalist for nearly a quarter of a century, over a quarter of a century now, it's amazing to see the media changing and seeing guys like this who are enthusiastic about spreading everybody's messages and just spreading all this great information. So I've gone on too long. aqdpi.com. Check out Sarah's webpage, and maybe I will be there talking about stuff.